October 11th, 1942. Off the coast of Guadalcanal. 01:43 a.m. The ocean is black, not dark. Black. The kind of darkness that erases distance, swallows shapes, and turns the horizon into nothing. No moon, no stars, just the low hum of engines and the quiet tension of men who cannot see what is coming. On the deck of a U.S. cruiser, a lookout scans the void. He sees nothing. That's what makes it dangerous. Somewhere above that darkness, engines whisper. Low. Careful. Controlled. Japanese aircraft. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai adjusts his heading slightly, eyes straining through the night. There is no horizon to guide him, no landmarks, no visual reference at all. Just instinct. And training. Below him, the enemy fleet. He knows they are there. He doesn't need to see them. That is the advantage. For months, night has belonged to them. Japanese pilots had mastered it. Low altitude approaches. Silent entries. Perfect timing. They didn't need technology. They didn't need instruments. They had experience. And in the Pacific, that was enough. Sakai glances at his instruments briefly, then back into the void. His wingman is somewhere nearby. He cannot see him, but he knows he's there. They descend. Slowly, carefully. Below, the American ships remain unaware. Guns idle. Searchlights dark. Men waiting, but not knowing for what. Because you cannot defend against what you cannot see. Sakai tightens his grip. This is the moment. He spots it. A faint outline. A shadow against black. A ship. He aligns his approach. Steady. Silent. Then he dives. The engine roars to life. The silence shatters. Bombs release. Explosions tear through the night. Fire blooms across the water. Sudden. Violent. Blinding. On the American ship, alarms scream. Men rush to positions. Searchlights snap on. Too late. Because the attack is already happening. More aircraft follow, striking from different angles. Fast. Precise. They disappear as quickly as they came. Back into darkness. Gone. Sakai pulls up sharply, heart steady, breathing controlled. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. He knows the result. Confusion. Damage. Fear. And, most importantly, surprise. That is what makes it work. Back on the American ships, chaos settles into urgency. Fires are contained. Damage assessed. Wounded carried below. But one thing remains clear. They never saw it coming. Not until it was too late. This becomes the pattern. Night after night. Attack after attack. Japanese pilots own the darkness. Because darkness hides them. Protects them. Gives them control. And control wins battles. Weeks pass. Then months. The Americans adapt. Slightly. Better lookouts. Faster response. But it doesn't change enough. Because the problem is not reaction. It is detection. And without detection, everything else fails. Back in the cockpit, Sakai listens to the post-mission briefing. Damage confirmed. Minimal losses. Another success. Another night where the enemy never had a chance. He allows himself a small nod. Because this is how the war is supposed to be fought. Not with overwhelming force. Not with superior numbers. But with timing. Precision. And advantage. And at night. The advantage is theirs. But far away from this dark ocean. Far from the sound of engines and the flash of explosions. Something is changing. Not in the air. Not in the tactics. But in the way the enemy sees. Because somewhere, in a room filled with glowing screens and quiet signals. The darkness is starting to disappear. And when it does, everything that made these attacks possible will vanish with it. Late 1942. Aboard a U.S. Navy destroyer in the Solomon Islands. The ocean is still black. Nothing has changed. At least, not on the surface. The same darkness. The same silence. The same feeling that something could be out there, watching. But inside the ship, deep below the deck, it's not dark. A dim green glow fills a cramped compartment. A rotating line sweeps across a circular screen. Back and forth. Again. Again. Petty Officer James Callahan leans closer, eyes fixed on the display. He doesn't look outside. He doesn't need to. Because he's not watching the sky. He's listening to it. Radar. A word still unfamiliar to many. Still new. Still not fully trusted. But here, right now, it matters. The line sweeps again. Empty. Then, a flicker. Callahan straightens. Contact. The room tightens instantly. Range? A voice asks. 15 miles, bearing 085. The officer pauses, looks at the screen, looks back at Callahan. Are you sure? Callahan doesn't hesitate. Yes, sir. Above deck, nothing can be seen. No sound. No movement. Just darkness. But below, the sky is no longer empty. Minutes pass. The contact moves. Closer. Steady. Exactly like the reports had described. The officer grabs the phone. Prepare anti-air batteries. Above, sailors move quickly, confused, tense. Because this is new, they are reacting before anything is visible. Searchlights stand by. The order spreads across the ship. And for the first time, they are not waiting for the attack. They are waiting for confirmation. Back in the sky, Lieutenant Saburo Sakai descends once again. Same altitude, same approach, same confidence. Nothing below. No lights. No signs of awareness. Perfect. He lines up his attack. Steady. Calm. Just like before. Below, Callahan watches the signal. Now stronger. Closer. 10 miles. The officer nods. Hold. The tension builds. 5 miles. Now. Searchlights explode into the sky. White beams cut through darkness. Sharp. Blinding. Sakai flinches. What? The sky lights up around him. And suddenly, he is visible. Not just to one ship. To all of them. Anti-air guns open fire. Tracer rounds tear through the night. Explosions burst around him. This wasn't supposed to happen. They weren't supposed to see him. He pulls hard on the controls, breaking away, diving, climbing, trying to escape. But the sky is no longer empty. It is alive. Tracking. Following. Another burst explodes nearby. Too close. He aborts the attack. No choice. Below, the American ships hold position. Guns tracking. Firing. Because now, they know exactly where he is. The attack never happens. For the first time, the darkness fails. Sakai pulls away into the night, breathing harder now. Heart racing. He looks back, sees the beams still scanning, still searching, still finding. Back on the destroyer, Callahan watches the signal fade. Contact retreating. The officer exhales slowly. Good work. Above deck, the crew remains alert. But something has changed. They didn't react. They anticipated. And that changes everything. In the days that follow, more ships receive the same equipment. More crews trained. More screens begin to glow in the dark. And with each one, the advantage shifts, because night is no longer silent. It speaks. In signals, in echoes, in data. And those who can hear it no longer need to see. Back in the Japanese briefing room, reports begin to arrive. Attacks intercepted earlier than expected. Enemy defenses activated before visual contact. Confusion spreads. How are they detecting us? No clear answer. Only results. More resistance. More losses. More failed approaches. Sakai listens quietly, because he has experienced it himself. Something has changed. Not the aircraft. Not the tactics. The environment. The night itself. And for the first time, it no longer feels like protection. It feels exposed. Because if the enemy can now see in darkness, then darkness is no longer an advantage. It is just absence of light. And that realization is only just beginning. Early 1943. Night sky over the Solomon Islands. The darkness is still there. Heavy. Silent. Familiar. But something is missing. Confidence. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai flies lower this time. Closer to the water. Engine throttled carefully, trying to stay hidden. Because now, hidden matters more than ever. Before, night was protection. Now, it feels like a test. He glances at the horizon. Nothing. Good. But that no longer means safe. Below, the American fleet moves slowly through the water. From a distance, it looks unchanged. Dark. Quiet. Unaware. But inside those ships, everything is different. Radar operators track multiple signals. Blips appear and shift across glowing screens. Each one identified. Measured. Followed. Multiple contacts incoming. The report travels quickly. Gun crews prepare. Searchlights ready. Not reacting. Waiting. Back in the air, Sakai signals his wingmen. They approach from different angles. A standard tactic. Divide attention. Confuse defenses. It used to work. Now, it doesn't matter. Because they are already detected. Contact splitting. Callahan reports from below. The officer nods. Track both. No hesitation. No confusion. The system handles it. 2 targets. 2 directions. Still controlled. Sakai begins his attack run. Everything looks right. Everything feels familiar. But inside, there's tension, because now he knows. They might already see him. Suddenly, searchlights. Again. Not late. Not reactive. Perfectly timed. The beam locks onto him almost instantly. He jerks the controls. Brakes hard. Too fast. Too precise. This isn't chance. This is tracking. Anti-air fire follows immediately. Explosions erupt around him. Closer than before. More accurate. His wingman tries to continue the attack. Push through. A burst of fire catches him. A flash. Then nothing. Gone. Sakai doesn't look. He can't. Because now, this isn't an attack. It's survival. He pulls away, diving low over the ocean, trying to disappear. But even as he escapes, he knows. This is not what it used to be. Back on the American ship, the radar screen clears. Contact lost. The officer lowers the phone slowly. That's the 3rd tonight. Not a victory. A pattern. Because now, the attacks are failing. Not always. Not completely. But enough. Enough to change the outcome. Enough to change the risk. Back at base, Japanese pilots gather in silence. The debrief is different now. Less certainty. More questions. They were ready. They tracked us early. They knew where we were. No one says it directly, but everyone understands. The surprise is gone. And without surprise, night attacks lose their edge. Sakai sits quietly, listening. He replays the mission in his mind. Every movement. Every decision. There was no mistake. And yet, it failed. Because the enemy changed something fundamental. Not how they fight. How they see. A senior officer finally speaks. We must adjust our approach. But how? Lower altitude. Slower speed. Different angles. None of it matters. Because the problem is not visibility. It is detection. And detection happens before the fight even begins. Sakai looks down at the floor, thinking. For the first time, he considers something he never had to before. What if there is no way to remain unseen? The thought lingers. Uncomfortable. Because if that is true, then everything they built their advantage on is gone. Outside, the night remains unchanged. Still dark. Still silent. But inside that darkness, something is watching. Something that does not rely on eyes. Something that does not miss. And soon, every pilot in the sky will feel it. Because this is no longer about tactics. It is about a shift in reality. And once reality changes, there is no going back. Mid-1943. Airfield on Rabaul. The runway is barely visible under the dim glow of shielded lamps. Mechanics move quickly, quietly, preparing aircraft that will soon disappear into the night. But the mood has changed. No one says it directly, but it's there. Hesitation. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai stands beside his aircraft, looking up at the sky. Still dark. Still familiar. But no longer safe. The briefing had been shorter than usual. No detailed attack plan. No confident predictions. Only a warning. Enemy detection improving. That is all. Inside the cockpit, Sakai tightens his straps, checks his instruments. Everything is ready, except certainty. Engines start. Aircraft roll forward. Lift into the night. Formation builds slowly. Loose. Careful. Because now, even formation feels dangerous. Too many aircraft close together means stronger detection, stronger signals, easier tracking. So they spread out. But that creates another problem. Isolation. No support. No coordination. A trade-off. And already a disadvantage. Below, American ships move through open water. Radar systems active. Operators alert. They are no longer reacting. They are expecting. Contact. Multiple returns. The officer nods. Distance. 20 miles. Closing. That is earlier than before. Earlier detection means more time. More time means better positioning. And better positioning means control. Above, Sakai scans the darkness. Nothing visible. But now, that means nothing. Because the enemy does not need to see him. Suddenly, a voice crackles over the radio. They've locked onto us. The formation breaks instinctively. Too late. Searchlights cut through the sky. Not searching. Finding. One beam locks onto an aircraft. Then another. Within seconds, the entire sky is alive with light. Anti-air fire erupts. Explosions fill the air. Not scattered. Not random. Directed. Precise. Sakai dives sharply, trying to escape the beam. But another catches him. Then another. It feels like the darkness itself is gone. Every movement tracked. Every position known. He pulls hard, pushing the aircraft to its limits. But this time, it's different. He is not slipping through defenses. He is inside them. A trap. Below, American gunners adjust aim with calm efficiency. Because they are not guessing. They are guided. The radar feeds the guns. The guns follow the signals. And the signals do not lie. One aircraft explodes midair. Another spirals downward. The formation dissolves, not from confusion, from pressure. Overwhelming, constant. Sakai breaks away again, climbing, turning, trying to find a gap. There isn't one. Because the system is everywhere, not just on one ship, on all of them. Connected, coordinated, and always watching. He finally escapes the engagement zone, breathing hard. But this time, there is no sense of completion. No successful strike. No confirmed damage. Only survival. Back at base, the losses are counted. Higher than before. Much higher. And the results? Minimal. The room is quiet. Because now, the situation is clear. Night attacks are no longer effective. Not because of skill. Not because of courage. But because the environment has changed. A pilot speaks, frustration barely controlled. We cannot approach without being detected. Another adds quietly. We cannot attack without being targeted. Silence. Because that leaves only one conclusion. We cannot fight like this anymore. Sakai sits still, absorbing the words. For months, the night had been their advantage. Now, it is their weakness. Because darkness no longer hides them. It exposes them, traps them, turns every approach into a risk, every mission into a gamble. And for the first time, the question is not how to improve. It is whether to continue at all. Outside, the night remains unchanged, but its meaning is completely different. Because when your greatest advantage becomes your greatest vulnerability, the war shifts. And once it shifts this far, there is no easy way back. Late 1943. Pacific Theater. Night Operations Briefing Room. The map is still there. The same routes. The same targets. The same ocean. But the strategy is gone. Officers stand around the table, but no one is pointing. No one is explaining. No one is confident. Because the one thing they relied on no longer exists. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai sits quietly at the edge of the room, listening. Night operations are to be reduced. The words land heavily. Not paused. Not adjusted. Reduced. Another officer continues. Losses are increasing. Success rates declining. Enemy detection capabilities remain consistent. Consistent. That is what makes it final. Not a temporary advantage. Not a new tactic that can be countered. A permanent shift. Sakai looks up at the map. For months, those routes meant opportunity. Now, they represent exposure. A mission outline is read aloud. Short. Simplified. Avoid large formations. Minimize time over target. Abort if detected early. Abort if detected. That condition alone would have made no sense before. Now, it defines everything, because detection comes first. Before sight. Before engagement. Before even awareness. It comes early. Always early. And once it happens, the outcome is already set. Across the Pacific, American forces operate differently now. Ships move at night without fear. Convoys maintain formation. Operations continue in darkness. Because they are no longer blind. Radar screens glow in control rooms. Operators track movements miles away. Signals appear before sound, before sight. The night has become transparent, not to the eye, but to the system. Takai walks outside after the briefing. The sky is clear, dark, unchanged, but he knows better now. It is not empty. It is watched. He remembers the early missions, the silence, the surprise, the control, how effortless it felt, how certain. That certainty is gone, not replaced by fear, but by understanding, a different kind of awareness, because now, every time he enters the night, he assumes he is already seen. That changes how he flies, how he thinks, how he fights. And it changes the outcome, because war is not just about weapons. It is about information, and the side that sees first wins first. Inside American ships, radar operators continue their work. Quiet, focused. No celebration, no drama, just routine. Because for them, this is normal now. Detection, tracking, control. The system runs continuously, and that continuity is what makes it unstoppable. Back in the Japanese command, the final reports are filed. Night attack effectiveness reduced. Loss rates increased. Operational advantage lost. Clear. Direct. Unavoidable. Sakai stands alone on the airfield, looking out into the darkness. For a long moment, he says nothing, because there is nothing left to say. The night is still there, but it no longer belongs to them. Because once the enemy learns to see in darkness, darkness is no longer a weapon. It is just another battlefield. And on that battlefield, they are no longer ahead. The engines start again in the distance. Another mission, another night. But now, every pilot knows the truth. They are not entering the unknown. They are entering something that already knows they are coming. And when that happens, the outcome is no longer decided in the moment. It is decided before the fight even begins.